Part 89. The House of Everything I Created. Author, Yinian Luan Tianji. Chapter 881. His arrival quickly caused fluctuations in the bubble world. A mysterious light spread from the center of the bubble world. Passing through bubbles one after another, it came to Angus's feet. Angus stepped on this brilliance, and under the guidance of the brilliance, he soon arrived at the center of this world. Taiwan Novel Network Rightward arrow. There are towers after towers here, and there are countless distances between towers. The central tower is the tallest, like a pillar of heaven, located in this central bubble world. Angus entered the central tower directly under the guidance of the brilliance. At the top of the tower is a huge sky garden. In the garden, a radiant figure in a white robe sat quietly on a chair. The brilliance was colorful, covering his body, making it difficult to see his true face. Just sitting there quietly, he gave people an unparalleled supreme feeling, as if he was the center of the universe. Looking at this mysterious soul master, Angus maintained enough respect. This is also a strong man who is infinitely close to eternity. It's just that he is moving in a different direction. It is said that the direction this person is walking is the eternal soul path, and he completely masters all the mysteries of the soul. At that time, his soul can change at will, and will not be bound by any force, as if the soul path itself. Compared with the 5 calamities immunity of the immortal path, it is another different way of eternity. There has never been a stupid person in this world. Every person who can become a master has his own wisdom. The soul master's eyes fell on Angus. Is there anything? The transfer order of the chairman of the Void Destiny Committee. I hope the soul master can go to explore the ancient god ruins this time. The lord of the fairy palace will go with him. This is the president's transfer order. As he said, a crystal token appeared in his hand. Looking at the token, the soul master waved his hand gently, and the token had fallen into his hand. Angus didn't say much. He knew little about the soul master. This person was very mysterious. Although he joined the Void Fate Committee, he appeared too few times. Basically, it was his subordinates who were doing some things for the Void Fate Committee, and they basically didn't do it if they could. The most important thing is that the soul field is not a kind force. This is a civilization that will devour and invade the world, an extremely large void force. This kind of force is usually not easy to deal with and has a very strong xenophobia. The soul master exuded a majestic soul power. This power seemed to tear apart time and space and was observing the distant future. After a long while, this power was slowly withdrawn, and a will echoed in Angus's mind. This incident involves the ancient gods and is shrouded in a fog. It is quite dangerous. But I will go there. You go and reply to the president. Okay, Lord Soul Master. The Soul Master waved his hand slightly, and a colorful door appeared in front of Angus. Angus nodded slightly, stepped into it and disappeared. This ray of soul will has returned to his body. The door slowly disappeared, and a figure with purple light all over his body appeared next to the Soul Master. Master, do we have to intervene in this incident? I have a bad feeling. The Soul Master said calmly, don't worry, if there is a problem, the old guy, the president, will take action. He is infinitely close to eternity, only the last line is missing, waiting for transformation. I didn't expect that he would be the protagonist of the Void event. The miracle coin will actually be reflected on him. Is this the will of the ancient gods? Or their prediction? The first person who has truly set foot in eternity in countless eras. If Lin Yi was here, he would be very surprised by the figure shrouded in purple light. This person is the soul hunter who once invaded the Red Lotus realm Xuanhuan. This incident is definitely not simple. I feel that there is a dark hand stirring time and space behind the scenes. You, Wuodeo, come with me. If there is a problem, you can use the 4-dimensional soul field to isolate everything and stay away from danger. Innately invincible, no matter what danger there is, we can avoid it. It's the Lord. An undercurrent is surging, and Lin Yi doesn't know all this. However, at this time, a strange guest came to his Wanchai. This guest came with another person, and this person Lin Yi happened to know. It was the Ren Wudi who had seen in the strange place. Lin Yi really didn't expect that this person actually found this place, and brought someone with him. Ren Wudi's face was filled with a smile, looking at Lin Yi and said, "Manager Lin, we meet again." Lin Yi looked at Ren Wudi's face and showed a little surprise on his face. "How did you find the Wanchai? Ren Wudi showed a bright smile on his face. "Mr. Lin may not know the talent you exchanged in the Wanchai. It has become the most in-demand product in the Void City. Countless practitioners are looking forward to this thing. Later, it reached my ears. I asked around and heard the name of your store. After all, I have dealt with you before. So I immediately realized that it was you who came." After hearing what Ren Wudi said, Lin Yi suddenly realized. His eyes fell on the person next to Ren Wudi, and a strange look appeared on his face. Who is this person? The person next to Ren Wudi was a girl who looked like she was 13 or 14 years old. However, he was not a human being. His essential vitality was completely different from that of humans. He was a humanoid existence. She was completely shrouded in a black robe. Only a strand of golden hair passed through the black robe, and the lower half of her face was vaguely visible. However, under Lin Yi's true destiny, this black robe had no effect. He could easily see the true face of this person. Golden hair, golden eyes, golden eyebrows, delicate facial features, white and almost transparent skin. From any angle, she is as delicate as a doll. Ren Wudi said with a slightly solemn expression, "This is a friend I met by chance. At that time, I was suffering from a disaster and almost died. Fortunately, she helped me to block the disaster. She is from another world. She came to us to find someone. The house of everything I created." Author, Yinian Luan Tianji. Chapter 882. According to her, she found the person she was looking for after using a miracle coin. And according to the guidance of the miracle coin, this person is in our world group. She showed me the image of that person, and then I brought her here. Lin Yi was confused when he heard this, and suddenly his heart moved. "You mean, the person she is looking for is me?" Ren Wudi smiled slightly. "Yes, the person this lady wants to find is you, Manager Lin." Hearing this, Lin Yi's heart slightly aroused a little interest. He looked at the little girl shrouded in a black robe. "So now you have found me, do you have anything to find me? I hope readers will remember our domain name Taiwan Novel Network Rightward Arrow Smoke GS Situation." The little girl shrouded in a black robe slowly took off her hat. A delicate face appeared in front of Lin Yi. She looked at Lin Yi and said with a hint of expectation and joy on her face, "I hope you will go with me to the ancient ruins this time." Hearing this, Lin Yi's eyebrows jumped. He originally had no intention of going to the ancient ruins. Now someone actually found him specifically and hoped that he would go with him. This felt weird no matter how you looked at it. He couldn't help but frowned. "Why? You want me to go with you?" The girl looked at Lin Yi and said with a proud smile on her face, "I got a Prophet Series miracle coin. This coin can answer all my questions. The question I wanted to answer is how can I get the information of the ancient gods' traces in the ancient ruins? Then the answer the miracle coin gave me is your portrait and the coordinates of this world group. In other words, if I want to get the information of the ancient gods' traces, I must go with you." Hearing this, Lin Yi couldn't help but frowned. It was the first time he heard of such a thing. Instinctively, he felt that there seemed to be something wrong here. But the problem was not with the girl, but with the miracle coin itself. He couldn't understand why the miracle coin found him and designated him to do this. Indistinctly, He felt as if there was an invisible big hand controlling everything. This feeling made him a little suffocated, which was a feeling he had never had before. He couldn't help but think of his Yiling Jing, which made him have everything he has now. This scripture has not been completely complete. Could it be that my crossing was not an accident, but the result of the influence of some force? The ancient God, the creator of this world legend, created all creatures. Thinking of this, a trace of solemnity appeared in his eyes. He felt that he might have to go on this matter. Maybe he could know something related to his crossing. The higher the realm of cultivation, the more he understood that there is no love or hatred without reason in this world. Everything has a cause and result, including his crossing. It's just that in the past, he never had any clues, but now it seems that there is a vague clue in front of him, tempting him to explore. But he would not take the bait so easily. If you want me to go with you, it's not impossible. I'm a jack of all trades here. As long as you are willing to pay the price, you can do anything you want. Of course, the prerequisite is that your wish is within my ability. What price are you willing to pay to hire me to go with you? The girl looked at Lin Yi with a smug smile on her face. I have something you will definitely be willing to do. I have already inquired about you. You are a cultivator of the immortal way, and you are practicing the fifth calamity of the heavenly immortal way. But there should be other powers, but it doesn't matter. I have a miracle coin here, its name is the pupil of space. Once used, your eyes will change and you can see the fundamental secrets of space. Then it will have an effect. All the mysteries of space seen by your eyes will naturally become your knowledge. And when you have seen all the mysteries of space, you will naturally be immune to the damage of the power of space, and at the same time you can master the power of space. The cultivation system of the heavenly immortal way is to cultivate the five. I am immune to great power, but I cannot control it. If you use the eye of space, in addition to being immune to the damage of space, you can also have absolute control over space, thereby surpassing other Tianxiandao cultivators in the way of space and becoming more powerful. Listening to the words of the girl in front of him, Lin Yi smiled faintly. A miracle coin that can master the entire principle of space is indeed very precious and worth my personal effort. Well, since you have come a long way to find me and are willing to pay for this wonderful miracle coin, I will reluctantly agree to you. This is a contract, sign your name. The girl looked at the note in front of Lin Yi and frowned slightly. You have a strange power. Yes, but this is a contract type. And this item will not cause erosion to you. This is a strange item that has been specially processed. The girl's eyes showed a trace of disbelief when she heard this. This was the first time she heard of a strange item that had been processed. Are you telling the truth? Of course it's true, I don't have to lie to you. And the man next to you, Ren Wudi, has also signed this. You'll know if you ask him. The girl turned her head and looked at Ren Wudi, who nodded and said, Don't worry, this thing really doesn't do any harm. Hearing this, the girl hesitated, but she still picked up the note. Looking at the content of the contract on it, it was very fair, without any other special requirements. This information appeared directly in her mind, and she couldn't help but look at Lin Yi. I can accept the content of the contract, she said and wrote her name in the position of Party B. The girl's name is Ariada. As the note wrote her name, it ignited without wind, and a mysterious power connected to her. This power is vast and boundless, cold and ruthless, and seems to be some kind of extremely terrifying and weird nature. Lin Yi looked at her and smiled. Ms. Aliatha, although the contract has been signed, I still need to find a way to re-register for the exploration. Registration seems to have ended yesterday. With a confident smile on her face, Aliatha looked at Ren Wudi and said, Don't worry about this matter, Ren Wudi will help you. This is an anonymous pass token. You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. The House of Everything I Created. Author, Yinian Luan Tianji. Chapter 883. You just need to enter your information, and then you can go directly with Miss Aliata. This is specially prepared for those who missed the registration time. Hearing this, Lin Yi's eyebrows jumped slightly. In order to allow more people to explore, the Void Fate Committee was well prepared. Lin Yi looked at the two people, stretched out his hand to take the token, and a slight wave entered his body along his arm. He could feel that this power was not threatening at all, so he did not stop it. The information of using the token appeared in his mind. A faint smile appeared on his face. Okay, I have entered the information. Then we have to prepare and then set off. Lin Yi did not intend to send his original body out, the Blue Star clone was enough. After all, the Blue Star clone has also completed the prototype of the Daohen world. The pure power can also match the level of the Earth Immortal Dao. If combined with the spiritual wave, it can also exert the combat power of the heavenly Immortal Dao level. And the existence of distorted reality and mental energy may be able to avoid changes in the ancient god ruins. In the next 2 days, the girl Ariata lived completely in the Wanchi house. She didn't consider herself an outsider at all, and all the fine wines in the store became her target. Lin Yi didn't realize that this guy was actually an alcoholic. And she was a rich woman with a lot of world coins in her hands. At the same time, she was a person who could drink 1,000 cups without getting drunk. No matter how much she drank, she would not get drunk. Brandy was very unfortunate. Under her money offensive, he became her exclusive tool. He kept asking Brandy to mix different fine wines for Ariata. Lin Yi saw what a real alcoholic was. At this time, Ariata, holding a glass of fine wine, sat at the bar and drank it in one gulp. She made a strange cry. Oh, this is so delicious. I have drunk fine wine from countless world groups, but this is the first time I have drunk something so delicious. Manager Lin, where is the recipe for your fine wine? It really makes me linger and feel what fine wine is. A blush flashed across Ariata's delicate face. At this time, she had a pair of ponytails and a head full of blonde hair, making her look as cute as a doll. She was also wearing a dress that looked like a princess dress, with gold and white, and various strange patterns on it. This is not just an ordinary dress, but there are some powerful mysterious fluctuations on this dress. This fluctuation is very strong, composed of countless runes, and contains the mysteries of time and space. This is a defensive equipment, but the appearance is very exquisite. After drinking the wine in her hand, looking at the brandy that was still swinging, Ariata sneaked to Lin Yi's side. She raised her head, looked at Lin Yi, and whispered, "Manager Lin, let's have a discussion." Lin Yi, who was like a drunkard, looked at her with a look of surprise on his face. "What do you want to do?" In the past 2 days, Lin Yi has figured out some of the temperament of this girl. She is eccentric, and she does whatever she wants, and she also likes to play pranks. Some customers in the store have been pranked by her. But when the customers in the store see her equipment, they usually don't say anything. And after the prank, she will order a few glasses of fine wine for the pranked objects. A few glasses of fine wine are enough to eliminate the slight anger of these customers. In addition, this girl has a natural affinity, which makes these people always unable to get angry for some reason. Lin Yi's true destiny can see that this girl is filled with a strange aura. This aura does not belong to the 5 innate principles, nor does it belong to the acquired principles. It is a power that is very different from the miracle coin. This power can make people feel good about her unintentionally, and it can also quickly weaken the negative emotions in other people's hearts towards her. A mysterious power that acts on the mind, a power that has never been seen before. The most peculiar thing is that this power appeared out of thin air on this girl. Lin Yi couldn't see the source of this power. It seemed that this power really came without a trace. Lin Yi took a deep breath, and a trace of solemnity appeared in his eyes. It seems that there are many secrets hidden in this void, and the power is not limited to the 5 innate principles. At this time, Aliata said mischievously, "How do you make this wine? Sell me the secret. I'm willing to pay for it. How about it? I'm very sincere. I can buy it for you with a miracle coin that I don't need. This coin is called Never Bend. As long as you use this coin, you can specify something that will never bend. There is no power in the world that can bend it. In the past, the power of this coin was used in many powerful weapons. How about it? Are you interested?" She has already taken out a coin and waved it in front of Lin Yi's eyes. It seems to want to attract his attention. Miracle coins have various functions, although they are not necessarily absolutely powerful. But most people and most power systems are useless to the power of miracle coins. The principles involved are very mysterious. Even if Lin Yi understood the true destiny, he could not see through the essence of the power of the miracle coin. Looking at the little hand swaying in front of him, and the coin held in that little hand, Lin Yi smiled and said, "It's just some recipes for spiritual wine, no problem at all." As he said that, he waved his hand and a crystal appeared in his hand. With a thought, all 99 kinds of original wines of the Dionysus sect were recorded in it. Then he threw it to Aliatha casually. "Here you go." Aliatha smiled excitedly and threw the coin to Lin Yi casually. Lin Yi took the coin casually and put it away quietly. So far, he already has 4 miracle coins in his hand. There is another coin that has not been received because the contract has not been completed. Tomorrow is the time to set off officially. You should have a good rest today. We will set off tomorrow. Hearing this, Aliatha was suddenly stunned, and then a trace of disappointment appeared on his face. "Ah, how come it's so fast? I haven't had enough wine yet. No, I need to bring more wine. Otherwise I won't have wine for a long time, and I'll die of thirst." Thinking of this, she suddenly became nervous. She rushed to Brandy and looked at him nervously. "Brandy, you have to do your best to mix me drinks tonight. I want as many as you can." The House of Everything I Created. Author, Yinian Luan Tianji. Chapter 884. As she spoke, she slapped a handful of world coins on the counter. Ariata looked at Brandy with burning eyes. At this time, Brandy looked like a bitter gourd, and turned to look at Lin Yi. What should the manager do? Lin Yi glanced at him. Customers are the most important. If she wants it, you can make it for her. Absinthe on the side looked at Brandy with a weird smile on his face and made a weird chuckle. Lafite red wine was also constantly poking its head out of the kitchen, looking at the excitement outside, and like Absinthe, it was full of sly smiles. Sakuramiya Shirley sat in a seat, quietly reading the book in her hand, not caring about this farce. She has already stepped into the level of Tiangxiandao. The Yuankai tribulation has been completed, and the next is the tribulation of all things. She knew that Lin Yi had a divine crystal, and she also learned from Lin Yi that this thing can accelerate the achievement of the tribulation of all things. The next step is to exchange the right to use the divine crystal through contribution points. In this way, she can accelerate her practice of the tribulation of all things. At the same time, she can also read the various cultivation systems in the Wanchaiwu at will. This is the benefit that Lin Yi opened to the old people like them. After all, everyone is either a fellow villager or a person who has shared hardships, so the benefits are naturally much better than those in the Void City. Among the old people in the Wanchaiwu, in addition to Sakura Miyaswili, Lin Yi is most optimistic about Li Hualian. This ancient sword fairy genius from Blue Star has made rapid progress in strength after combining spiritual energy. Combining the Dao mark and spiritual energy into one, a new system has been created. This person's achievements in the future will be limitless, because this person has the experience and talent to create a path. But what he needs now is to develop slowly and accumulate himself in the hope of going further. Lin Yi looked out of the French window, penetrated the entire base, and saw the void city. There were countless breaths rising into the air, and infinite brilliance enveloped the sky above the entire void city. It seemed that countless powerful beings gathered there. They were all people attracted by the ancient god ruins this time. Almost all the forces involved in the area covered by the void city have sent people. Regardless of size, they are all eager to try. It can be seen how strong the attraction of the ancient god ruins is. Lin Yi's eyes showed a hint of interest, although he has never been interested in joining in the fun. But since he is going to participate this time, he can't help but be a little interested. Ancient god ruins. Then let me look forward to it. Time flies to the second day. Lin Yi's Blue Star clone and Ariata have arrived in the Void City silently. To go to the ancient god ruins, it seems to take a special void spaceship. A strange building in the Void City. This is a building with a height of 1,000 meters. This height exceeds 99% of the buildings in the Void City. At the top of this building, a shuttle-shaped spaceship is docked. The surface of this spaceship is a silver metal color, densely covered with wonderful runes, covering every corner of the ship. A sense of technology and the mystery of the immortal way. At this time, the lower part of the spaceship just inserted into the top of the building. At the border between the spaceship and the building, passengers were entering one after another. The interior of the spaceship seemed to be an independent small world. The world of birds and flowers, with huge trees standing one after another. On each branch of these trees, there is an independent hut, and the hut has its own house number. All the big trees are neatly arranged, like an army, in order. Anyone who enters here can find the corresponding house according to the tickets in their hands. The tickets in Lin Yi and Aliata's hands are number 3785-1923-785. It means row 3785, tree number 1923, hut number 785 on it. This wonderful cave world covers an area of at least more than 10,000 square kilometers, and at least half of the area is this kind of tree-shaped hut. It can carry more than 100 million people, which is definitely a large void spaceship. It took a whole day for passengers to board the ship. After Lin Yi and Ariata entered here, they felt a strong breath after another, permeating in this space. The breaths of the strong men intertwined with each other, making everyone feel awe-inspiring, and they dared not act rashly, for fear of provoking someone they could not afford to offend. The lowest of these breaths was the energy fluctuation of the earth immortal path, and the highest was even hundreds of times that of the heavenly immortal path. Lin Yi's Blue Star clone was here, but it was only in the middle. Although Ariata also felt these huge breaths, she did not seem to care. She said with disdain on her face, "Most of these guys are reckless. It's just that they are powerful, not as good as the immortal cultivators, the wizard path, the devil's path and other cultivation systems. These cultivation systems are the true eternal path, and those guys who only cultivate power are on the wrong path. They will cry in the future." Lin Yi looked at Ariata, who looked indifferent, and a trace of inexplicable light flashed in his eyes. Obviously Ariata knew a lot of secrets of cultivation, and her identity was also very mysterious. From Ren Wuti, he knew that this mysterious girl Ariata came from another world. As for other information, he had no idea. The only thing that can be confirmed is that this girl is wealthy, with many miracle coins, world coins, and various treasures. This is a real little rich woman, and her own power level has reached the peak level of the earthly immortal. At the same time, there is a strange mysterious power surrounding her, which makes her seem very easy to gain the favor of others. All signs show that this girl has an extraordinary origin. Finally, with all the passengers arriving, this huge void spaceship slowly left the void city. More than 10 kilometers after leaving the Void City, a circle of hazy light spread out from the Void spaceship. The next moment, the Void spaceship turned into a stream of light and disappeared here. It rushed towards an unknown direction, and everything that blocked it would be torn apart. Whether it was energy, matter, or time and space, nothing could stand in its way. There were countless people living in the tree-shaped house. Most people stayed in their rooms, and only a small number of them would walk out and stroll around. Aliatha was lying on the sofa in the tree house, holding a pot of wine in his hand, drinking and dozing off. He would occasionally let out a weird laugh, like a real drunkard. Lin Yi was sitting by the window of the house, looking outside from time to time. His eyes were shining with the light of the true destiny. The House of Everything I Created. Author, Yinian Luan Tianji. Chapter 885. He is observing this world and watching the secrets in it. Taiwan Novel Network rightward arrow dot circled M. This cave world is nothing special, just some use of time and space power, and he has already seen the core part. As long as there are enough materials, he can also create it. Now he is observing this huge void ship, collecting its principles and understanding the information in it. In the future, as long as the materials are suitable, he can also create it. It can even be improved to create a small void spaceship. Lin Yi has long understood the greatest role of the true destiny solution. That is to peek into all the information in the world and turn this information into knowledge that you understand. Finally, use this knowledge to do what you want to do and create the creations you want to create. These creations can become exchange items for the Wanchaiwu in the future, increasing the foundation of the Wanchaiwu. Now in the Wanchaiwu, the price paid by the wishers of a large number of tasks is the various talents they have. Lin Yi is preparing to gather all kinds of truly perfect soul talents. And when these talents are gathered, he will devour them. Make himself a supreme genius without any flaws. Make better use of all the knowledge he has seen. The items derived from these knowledge will also become part of the exchange items of the Wanchaiwu in the future. Time passed by minute, and in a blink of an eye, it was 6 full void days later. The void spaceship crossed an unknown distance, how much time and space, and finally came to a wonderful place. Lin Yi's eyes passed through the spaceship and saw the outside. A huge black hole appeared in an endless dark void. The void nearby was a state of nothingness. Energy and matter do not exist in the area of tens of millions of miles around this void. Even time and space are the same. The closer the area is to this void, the more distorted and chaotic it is. The diameter of this void is at least 100 kilometers, which is the visual judgment. This 10-kilometer-long void spaceship slowly sank into this void. A circle of extremely rich light covered the entire spaceship, resisting the terrifying crushing force in the void. This force is formed by the pressure of time and space. Through the true destiny solution, Lin Yi can see how this force works. I don't know how much time has passed. Finally, the spaceship seems to have passed through this mysterious void. It appeared in another dark void. Not far from this void, a black hazy smoke and distortion appeared. A huge spiritual thought sounded in the cave inside the spaceship. All explorers, the spaceship has arrived at the periphery of the ancient god ruins. Now everyone is ready to get off the ship. After receiving the information, a breath rose in the tree-shaped house. Countless people came out in a line and quickly came to the exit of the void spaceship. At this time, at the exit of the void spaceship, a ray of light enveloped the passage and extended out. This brilliance extended all the way into the fog. One after another, figures left the spaceship and quickly flew away to the area where the fog was along this radiant passage. Lin Yi and Ariata did the same. Lin Yi's eyes could naturally see through what this brilliance was. This is a kind of space-time channel that can isolate the disordered space-time influence of the void. Walking in the void is not a simple thing. The space-time in the void is random and chaotic. You may be swept to an unknown place by the power in the void at any time. So without the power of the outer level and sufficient control of space, it is almost impossible to really walk in the void. Soon Lin Yi and Ariata crossed a distance of hundreds of kilometers and arrived at the twisted fog. A passage has been opened there, and this passage is shrouded in fog. Looking at the end of the passage, there seems to be a huge portal there. Lin Yi showed a hint of interest in his eyes, and crossed this twisted fog passage with Ariata. A few minutes later, they came to the end of the passage. Here is a huge platform, and at the end of the platform is a huge portal. This portal is hundreds of meters high and more than 30 meters wide. It is simple and mysterious, made of an unknown material, and there is a wonderful power flashing on it. All people who pass through this portal seem to be swept by this power. Next to this gate, there seem to be some people from the Void City, wearing uniforms, recording something. Lin Yi and Ariata had already arrived at the gate with the crowd. Lin Yi had roughly known what was going on through observation. The power emitted by this gate seemed to record what everyone who entered it was carrying. Even things hidden in the spiritual level seemed to be scanned by this power. The power exuded by this gate was a little similar to the power of the miracle coin. Ancient God's creation. Ariata seemed to know what it was, and a hint of interest appeared on his face. This is an item made by the ancient God, the legendary Gate of Truth. In front of this Gate of Truth, nothing can be hidden. Everything will be scanned. This is something the Void Fate Committee found in another ancient god's ruins. It seemed to have triggered a war at the time. Many people died fighting for this thing. Let's go, through this door, the opposite is the real ancient god ruins. Okay, Lin Yi naturally would not refuse. A few minutes later, they passed through the door. After a scan, Lin Yi found that all the items he carried were swept by this power. Even his soul level had traces of this power, no matter how big or small. He was awe-inspiring. It seems that the ancient gods have not studied the spiritual level. The two walked out of the door and looked outside. A huge tetrahedral substance appeared 1 kilometer away. It floated quietly in a void, filled with an eternal breath. The void near this huge tetrahedral cone is very stable. This stability comes from the twisted black smoke that closes this area. This black smoke does not exist naturally, but a large formation. A very terrifying formation contains infinite mysteries. It is obviously the work of the Void Fate Committee, in order to seal this ancient god ruins. Lin Yi took a deep breath, and a trace of solemnity appeared in his eyes. Facing the relics of the ancient gods who created the entire void, he felt a little nervous. At this time, Aliatha was no longer careless, and said with a very solemn face, "Be careful, after you go in, various battles may occur." You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. The House of Everything I Created. Author, Yinian Luan Tianji. Chapter 886. You have to protect me. Don't worry, no one can hurt us. Also, once we enter the ruins of the ancient gods, we may all undergo mutations. Our strength system may also change by then. The first thing we have to do is get familiar with the new power. Lin Yi nodded slightly. Let's go. He had a hunch that the power in the ancient gods' ruins might not be able to affect him. A realm of Deo marks enveloped him and Aliata in an instant. The two turned into a stream of light and rushed towards the entrance of the triangular pyramid. In the front of the triangular pyramid, facing their direction, a huge hole appeared. The diameter of the hole is at least hundreds of meters wide. As for this huge pyramid, its height has reached more than 10 kilometers. And this is only the volume revealed on the outside. As for how big it is inside, it is completely impossible to determine. What Lin Yi could see was that countless twists and folds of time and space existed within the pyramid. At this time, Many people had already rushed in first. It took Lin Yi and Aliata less than a minute to arrive at the huge cave entrance. There is no light in this hole, like a black hole waiting to swallow up all life. Aliata looked at the black hole, with a trace of solemnity in his eyes. Then, a miracle coin appeared in her hand. She looked at Lin Yi and said, "I prepared this specially for this time. It's called Eternal Vision. Once used, we can have vision anywhere, and our vision will not be blinded by changes in the environment or other forces. The situation inside this ancient god's ruins is unknown, and vision is a very important ability." After finishing speaking, this miracle coin erupted into a faint fluctuation, covering Aliata and Lin Yi. At the same time, the coin disappeared from Aliata's hands. The validity time of the coin is 1 void year. It's enough for us to complete this exploration. Lin Yi immediately noticed changes in the dark cave in front of him. A grey passage appeared in front of him. This passage was completely square, 100 meters in length and width, and extended to the depths. His eyesight was already very strong, and coupled with the power of the coins, he could see that the passage stretched straight for thousands of meters, and then branched off. In an instant, he knew that the interior of the ancient god's ruins was probably a maze-like place. At this time, many people have entered this passage. They are moving towards the depths of the ruins, and their bodies have undergone various changes. Some were transformed into a completely inhuman state, while others looked like corpses. Lin Yi frowned slightly, and Aliata had already pulled him into the darkness. After entering the darkness, he took a deep breath when they actually stepped onto the ground of this passage. Lin Yi was surprised to discover something. His appearance and that of Ariata beside him had completely changed. At this time, Lin Yi turned into a blue-skinned humanoid creature. His limbs were relatively thick, but his body was relatively thin. He had no nose on his head, only one mouth, and 2 black eyes. Aliata next to her also changed her appearance, but the change on the other side was very small. The hair turned into countless small branches, and the skin turned into a golden color. Lin Yi felt the power in his body, but there was no change in his spirit. The prototype world of Daohen has not changed. The power of the mind can still be poured into the body through the world of Daohen and form a domain. Lin Yi was slightly relieved. His strength had not changed, only his body had changed. This was a good thing. At the same time, the power of true life was not affected. He glanced down at Aliata. "How are you doing?" Aliata looked at his own image, shook his head and said, "It's okay, not too ugly, it's acceptable. But my power has been affected and it has become a little different. I want to get familiar with it." As she spoke, a golden light appeared in her hand. This is a power that contains the nature of energy and space, and has a huge danger. Lin Yi noticed the secret of this power after a little observation. Lin Yi and Aliata did not move forward eagerly. Lin Yi waited quietly for Aliata to familiarize himself with his power. It's not that whoever enters the ruins earlier will get more things. In this ruins of the ancient gods, it really depends on luck. Legend has it that an unlucky person entered the ruins of the ancient gods more than a dozen times, but never got anything. This giant wretch is known as the Forsaken Old God. After about half an hour, Aliata seemed to have completely figured out this new power. He turned to look at Lin Yi and said, "Let's go. Let's go out and dig out the secrets of the ancient gods." At this time, Aliata's eyes were shining, and she had a lewd expression on her face. She really didn't look like a girl. Lin Yi didn't care what happened to him. After all, he was his client and needed a certain degree of tolerance. The two began to walk along this passage toward the interior of the ruins like everyone else. The first passage is about a kilometer ahead and is a fork. The fork in front separated left and right, and a large number of people began to separate. Tens of millions of Void explorers have entered here, and they come from various forces under the Void Fate Committee. Ariata and Linyi soon came to the fork in the road. Linyi looked at Ariata. Which way are you going? Ariata thought for a while, looked at Linyi. I found you through the miracle coin. In this ancient god ruins, you can help me find the ancient god trace information I want. So where to go, it's up to you to choose. Anyway, I'm hanging out with you today. Whatever you say, I'll do it. Linyi was stunned when he heard this, looked at Ariata, shook his head and said, You are really casual. Okay, then I'll choose. Let's go to the right. After that, the two walked towards the passage on the right. The cross-sectional area and height of the passage on the right have shrunk, from 100 meters to less than 50 meters in height and width. At this time, a black slate appeared in Ariata's hand. Some silver threads appeared on the slate. Linyi took a look and knew that this was the road they had just walked. Ariata looked at Linyi and said, This is something unearthed from another ancient god ruins. I call it the ancient god map board. This thing can show all the routes we have traveled. In the ancient god ruins, all power systems will become chaotic. The house of everything I created. Author, Yinian Luan Tianji. Chapter 887. The latest chapter of the Wanchaiwu I created is updated the fastest. Only the items that appear in the ruins of the ancient gods can avoid this distortion. But in addition to these powers, there are also spiritual powers that can avoid being distorted by the power of the ancient gods. But in the entire void, there are very few people who have mastered the spiritual power system. Because the power of the mind is too ethereal, it is very difficult to form a stable power system unless it is a racial talent. Aliatha seemed to think that Linyi didn't know what the spiritual power system was, so he was explaining it to him. Linyi smiled and said, I happen to know spiritual power. Aliatha was surprised when he heard this and turned to look at him. Really? Looking at Aliatha with a big question mark in his eyes, Linyi smiled and stretched out his left hand. Then, a faint spiritual light spread on his left hand. The spiritual light gathered together, which made Aliatha's eyes reveal a hint of surprise. That's good. There are many special places in the ancient ruins. But if you have the power of the mind, it will be easier to pass the test of the ancient gods. Aliatha seemed to be very familiar with the ancient ruins. His eyes rolled around, as if he was calculating something quickly. As time passed, Linyi and Aliatha had passed hundreds of completely different branches in this maze of passages. There were fewer and fewer people around, and the flow of people was quickly diluted in this passage maze. But Linyi frowned slightly, glanced at Aliatha and said, Are there many maze-like ancient ruins like this? Aliatha shook his head and said, There are all kinds of ancient god relics, almost all of them are different. Because there are many kinds of ancient god relics. Some are the research bases of the ancient gods, which contain various creatures, creations, and even worlds they study. Some are their residences, or the places where their families live. Some are the treasure houses of the ancient gods, which store the treasures of the ancient gods. And the most dangerous is the tomb of the ancient gods. Legend has it that when the ancient gods die, they will bury themselves in a tomb that can never be opened. But, after our exploration, there is no body of the ancient god in these so-called tombs. So is this so-called tomb of the ancient god true or false? No one knows. The ancient god ruins we visited this time look very much like the ancient god's research base. This kind of place usually has various research objects left by the ancient gods, which are of great value. Here, there are usually some information about the ancient gods, as well as traces of miracle coins. But this kind of place can also be very dangerous, with defense mechanisms such as the ancient gods' guards and traps left behind. Any intruder will be attacked by them. Every time you explore the ancient god ruins, the ancient gods' guards and traps are the most dangerous. Linyi listened to Aliatha's popular science information about the ancient god ruins, and a trace of solemnity appeared in his eyes. For the ancient god who created the entire void in the legend, he would not underestimate it. After all, it is possible for a creator-like existence to leave any dangerous things. At this time, the width and height of the passage they were walking on had shrunk to 10 meters. But so far, they have not encountered any danger. But at this moment, the passage where Linyi and Aliatha were located suddenly changed. At both ends of this passage, a stone wall suddenly rose, directly blocking this place. Seeing this scene, Linyi and Aliatha stopped involuntarily. At this time, there were more than a dozen other people in this passage, all of whom were explorers who turned into this passage. When they saw this scene, they immediately took a fighting stance, but unless they were traveling together, everyone else stayed away from each other. After entering the ruins of the ancient gods, anything that happened could not be detected outside. Be careful with any strangers. Although traps and guards are dangerous, people who explore the ruins are also dangerous. At this moment, a strange wind suddenly blew past. The wind was pitch black, as if it contained incomparable terror. It blew from the stone slabs that closed the passage at both ends, and it appeared so abruptly. But the moment it appeared, everyone was horrified. They felt an invisible terror that was attacking them. Linyi grabbed Aliata's shoulders without any hesitation. At the same time, the true destiny was boundless and the true destiny was constant. He lifted Aliata and rushed in the direction of the passage. He was very fast and faced the black wind head-on. Others saw the scene and they did not move. They just watched Linyi rushing towards the black wind quietly. Ariata was shocked when she saw Linyi leading her towards the black wind. Linyi, are you sure? Reading benefits. Follow the public account Book Friends Basecamp and win cash/points for reading books every day. If I'm not sure, I'll do it myself. Don't worry. As soon as the voice fell, Linyi and Ariata had already rushed into the black wind. The black wind blew past and passed through their bodies, but it did not cause any harm to them. It was as if the two of them had never existed. Seeing this scene, the other explorers were stunned. Then they immediately realized that Linyi and the two must have some kind of protective power, and it was a power that could be used in the ruins of the ancient gods. But at this time, they no longer had the time to care about Linyi and the others. The black wind was attacking them from both sides. They each burst out with different powers. They are all using the power of change after entering the ruins to resist. One of the explorers, who had the body of a dragon, burst out with brilliant power, like a mighty river. The torrent of brilliance swept away towards the oncoming black wind from behind and behind. This power is pure violence, and the volume that explodes at this moment is like an atomic bomb exploding. Huge shock wave. In an instant, everyone standing in front of him was involved. Such a terrifying blow made Linyi a little surprised, and he couldn't help but turn his head and look behind him. The strange scene made his heart skip a beat. Black breeze doesn't look anything special. But the moment the terrifying torrent of power erupted from Longtu's body came into contact with the black breeze, it was as if it had never appeared before and disappeared out of thin air. The huge torrent of energy slowly disappeared under the breeze, as if it had been wiped out from space. The explorer with the dragon head's body changed drastically when he saw this scene. The other people who were caught in the torrent also looked panicked and exploded with their own strength, trying to ward off the black breeze blowing towards them. The House of Everything I Created. Author, Yinian Luan Tianji. Chapter 888. The latest chapter of the Wanchai Wu I Created is updated the fastest. But all resistance is in vain. In the end, under the gaze of Linyi and Aliatha, all their explorers were blown into nothingness in the black breeze. Linyi saw the scene and felt a little dignified. Is this the power in the ruins of the ancient gods? His eyes flashed with the light of the true destiny, and he could clearly see that the essence of this black breeze came from the power of the ancient gods. It came from the same source as the miracle coin. At this time, he could clearly feel that his boundless true destiny and the root of his true destiny were resisting the blowing of this black breeze. The spiritual wave was being consumed at a very fast speed, and the speed was quite fast. Thinking of this, he immediately sped up and ignored those who died. Aliath's thoughts rang in his ears. The power in the ruins of the ancient gods is very strong. If you want to explore here, it is a life or death struggle. In many cases, you really have to rely on luck. Especially the distortion and change of the body and power system. Or have a lot of preparation, such as a considerable number of items from the ruins of the ancient gods. It can resist the power from the ancient gods. This breeze formed by the power of the ancient gods is just one of the countless traps in the ruins of the ancient gods. Hearing this, Lin Yi nodded slightly. With the annihilation of the others, the two passed through the closed wall silently. But after passing through the wall, Lin Yi and Aliata were slightly stunned. Because what appeared in front of him was not a passage, but a completely metallized hall. This hall gave Lin Yi a high-tech feeling. The hall is about thousands of square meters, and 2/3 of the area is lined with crystals one after another. There are figures one after another in these crystals. The remaining 1/3 is some incomprehensible strange machines. On the ground and on the walls, a series of light paths connect all the machines and crystals in this hall. At this time, Aliatha on the side slowly said, "This should be the experimental site of the ancient gods. The things sealed in these crystals should be the research products of the ancient gods." Lin Yi frowned and looked at these research products. There was a trace of solemnity in his eyes, because all these sealed things looked abnormal. The first time he saw these things, he had a very familiar feeling. "Do you think these things are weird?" Hearing this, Aliatha looked carefully at the things in the crystals. Frowning. "Weird? What's going on? Why are these things so weird?" Aliatha's face changed drastically in an instant, as if he saw something incredible. When Lin Yi saw this scene, his pupils shrank slightly. He didn't expect to see such weird experimental products in the ruins of the ancient gods. Lin Yi and Aliatha came to the sealed crystal in a few steps. There are many crystals, and Lin Yi and Aliatha chose one of them. Standing in front of the crystal, looking at the things inside, Lin Yi is observing carefully bit by bit. The crystal in front of him sealed a monster with tentacles all over its body. Its lower body was like a centipede. All the scales grew a little hair, and if you look closely, you will find that these hairs are very thin tentacles. These tentacles are very disgusting, covering all the gaps in the lower body of the centipede monster. The feet extending from the centipede's body are also covered with these fluffy tentacles. The upper body of this monster is composed of hundreds of thick tentacles. It has no head or eyes, a completely twisted strange creature. Lin Yi's eyes flashed with the light of the true destiny, and he was observing all the essence of this thing. The first thing he saw was the twisted cell structure, which was completely entangled by matter and energy, and there was a trace of unique ancient god power entangled in it. But this ancient god power seemed to have some problems. #send 888 cash red envelopes #follow the official account book Friends Base Camp, read popular masterpieces, and win 888 cash red envelopes. The power of the ancient gods is invisible and boundless, which should not be the case. But this group of ancient gods' power has a hint of black, and this black is entangled with the invisible power of the ancient gods. And in this black power, Lin Yi saw something familiar. Weird power, but it is somewhat different from the weird power. I saw the power of the ancient gods and the weird power in this thing. The two forces are entangled together, which is very weird. What? This thing really has a weird power in it. Aliatha's face was full of shock. Could it be that there was already a weird existence in the era of the ancient gods? What exactly is the weirdness? This thing seems to be unable to suppress even the power of the ancient gods. Could it be that the weirdness is the creation of the ancient gods? But why did they create such a thing? Aliatha's head was full of question marks at this time. But no one could answer her, and Lin Yi just said calmly. Whatever it is, it has little to do with us. This looks like a testing ground. Do you have anything you want to take away? Lin Yi's words woke Aliatha up, and she looked around. It looks like there is nothing here that can be taken away. Let's go, let's keep moving forward. Lin Yi nodded slightly, and then continued to move forward with Aliatha. The two passed through the dense crystal seal device and walked to the opposite side. There was a door that seemed to be made of metal. The whole process was very quiet, and nothing happened. There were no protectors or traps guarding here, and they passed through here calmly. Standing in front of the metal door, Lin Yi reached out and grabbed Aliatha, and the power of true destiny enveloped them both. The next moment, they calmly passed through the metal door and came to the opposite side. The opposite side once again became a passage, and the dark mysterious rock seemed to be cast as a whole, without a single gap. The two walked calmly in the passage, and at this time, the walls of the passage showed unprecedented pictures. The content of the picture attracted the attention of Lin Yi and Aliatha. The content of the picture was very abstract, and some distorted things appeared in the void. Then there appeared countless mountains of corpses and seas of blood, and a large number of corpses piled up in the void. The corpses continued until Lin Yi and Aliatha walked to the end of the passage. They saw a large number of murals of corpses covered by countless distorted and invisible things. And on the mural at the end of the passage, a vague human figure appeared. The head of the human figure exuded a hazy glow, blocking the spread of this invisible distortion. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. The House of Everything I Created. Author, Yinian Luan Tianji. Chapter 889. Seeing the content on the mural, Aliatha said, "Isn't this the source of the weirdness? Are the ancient gods also fighting against the weird?" Lin Yi shook his head and said, "I don't know. But at least from the looks of it, the ancient gods should be able to withstand weirdness. But the strange things we just saw seem to have been created by the ancient gods. What you see here seems to be different." Writing this, I hope readers will remember our domain name Taiwan Novel Network. Rightward arrow circled M. Aliatha and Lin Yi both frowned, wondering what was going on. At this time, a metal gate with the same structure as when they entered this passage appeared in front of them. Lin Yi said slowly, "No matter what, let's continue walking and get more information. Maybe we can know what all this is about." With Lin Yi's power, they easily passed through the metal door. The gate is covered with countless mysterious runes, which contain powerful power of time and space, as well as the mysterious power of the ancient gods. But he still couldn't stop Lin Yi, which shocked Aliatha on the side. "What kind of power do you have? You can use it at will even here. Completely unfettered by any force. When I went to explore the ruins of the ancient gods in the past, it took a lot of effort to break through various traps and gates. If you explore the ruins, you don't know how much you will gain. Getting rich overnight is no longer a dream." Lin Yi smiled and said, "Everyone has their own secrets, right?" Lin Yi's answer made Aliatha frown. "Okay. But there really isn't any problem with the people chosen by Miracle Coin. It seems that this time, you can really let me know many secrets of the ancient gods." This time the place they came to seemed to be a factory. This factory is very strange. A large number of machines here are made of metal components. It looks very similar to a modern assembly line factory. A large number of petri dish-like things were set up here, at least hundreds of them at a glance. There seemed to be some other machines around these petri dishes. Some look similar to experimental benches. There seemed to be things left somewhere on several of the experimental benches. Lin Yi walked over with Aliatha, and then they saw what was inside. Placed on the experimental table are some mutilated limbs. At first glance, they should be some normal creatures, but only part of them. Most of the body seems to have disappeared. What they saw in front of them was a half-humanoid creature with a wolf-like head. Next to this experimental bench is a petri dish that looks to have been used. Lin Yi and Aliata looked at the petri dish, which was filled with purple liquid, and they could vaguely see something floating in it. Suddenly, something floated out of the liquid and hit the petri dish hard. This startled Aliata. She trembled instantly, like a frightened kitten, and put on a defensive posture. Her eyes were wary of what appeared on the wall of the petri dish. It was a weird thing. Half of it was a creature with the head and body of a wolf, and the other half was densely packed tentacles. These tentacles are all black and look very strange. Lin Yi took a deep breath, with a trace of solemnity in his eyes. This is obviously a transformation device, which transformed half of the body of the wolf-headed monster on the experimental table into something similar and weird. Under Lin Yi's interpretation of the true destiny, the strange power contained in this thing was clearly revealed. The most important thing is that he discovered that this thing still has biological fluctuations, and it is not dead. Seeing this scene, his eyes suddenly showed solemnity. This ancient god's ruins have existed for who knows how many years, but these transformed monsters are still alive. His expression was slightly solemn. If these things can still survive, God knows what else is in the ruins of the ancient god. The monster in the petri dish, the wolf head on one side, looked at them with strange eyes. The weird tentacles on one side are slowly squirming. It seemed that the arrival of the two of them had stimulated it and revived it from its slumber. Aliata also said in shock. This guy is actually still alive. Is weirdness really created by the ancient gods? Why create something like this? Lin Yi shook his head. I don't know. But what is certain now is that this must be the experimental ground of the ancient gods. There may be something dangerous in here. Do you want to continue exploring? Lin Yi looked at Aliata and asked calmly. A smile appeared on Aliata's face. Of course, the ancient gods' ruins contain all the origins and mysteries. Secrets are what interests me most. I don't care no matter how much danger there is. Lin Yi shrugged helplessly. Okay, let's move on. I'm also very interested in this place. Lin Yi was very interested in the origin of the weirdness, and at the same time, he was even more interested in the fact that his true destiny was so restrained and weird. He felt that he might be able to find the truth of all this if he continued to explore the ruins of the ancient gods. After taking a deep breath, a trace of solemnity appeared in his eyes, and he became more cautious about the next exploration. At this time, in this mysterious ancient god ruins, all kinds of people were encountering different things. Two tall figures appeared outside the ancient god ruins. One of them was covered with brilliant fairy light, and the other was shrouded in countless hazy brilliance. It was the Soul Master and the Master of the Fairy Palace. They were dispatched here by the chairman of the Void Fate Committee, to guard against possible dangers. However, they also had a certain interest in the ancient god ruins in front of them. They each sent a special incarnation and entered the ruins. Because the power, appearance, and inner nature of the ruins will undergo huge changes. So the incarnations they sent were special items obtained from the ancient god ruins. Two groups of people from the Fairy Palace and the Soul Realm were guarding outside the ancient god ruins, waiting quietly. Outside the large formation where the ancient god ruins were located, a mysterious figure appeared faintly. This figure was shrouded in darkness, and his specific image could not be seen clearly. He held a skull scepter in his hand, and two black eyes looked through the mist at the huge formation in the distance. The ancient god's experimental field, I hope you can find that thing smoothly. Hee hee. The strange laughter filled the void, but no one could hear it. In the ruins, a large number of people were searching. At the same time, they relied on various means to avoid various traps in the passage. Gradually, many people came into contact with various spaces in the ancient god's ruins. The House of Everything I Created. Author, Yinian Luan Tianji. Chapter 890. A trace of solemnity appeared in everyone's eyes. Because they all found many experimental products here, which seemed to be related to weirdness. No one found the ancient god items and miracle coins. At this time, Lin Yi and Aliata had passed through this area that looked like a processing plant. The two entered the next passage again. This passage was very strange. It was no longer a rock structure. It was a pure metal structure. This area had become full of high-tech at this time. When the two stepped into this passage also showed strange changes. Rays of light shot out from both sides of the wall, forming a network of light. This network quickly covered the entire passage, and a huge danger came. Lin Yi grabbed Aliata directly, and under the protection of the true destiny, he completely ignored the light network. However, he could feel that when the light network passed through them, the spiritual wave was being consumed, continuously and steadily. He couldn't help but frown slightly, and Lin Yi's body was far away in the Wanchai-Wu. Through the spiritual wave sphere, the status of both sides can be checked at any time. His brows furrowed slightly, and then below everything, in the underground maze. The bottom 5 layers were filled with all kinds of strange things, all of which were strange beings captured during strange invasions at 24 o'clock every day. They were all bound in the underground maze, a place specially prepared for this exploration. At this time, a strange being of the ghost fairy level had been killed. A trace of strange power was incorporated into the spiritual wave sphere, becoming a part of it, replenishing the consumption. Lin Yi and Aliata shuttled through the network of light, which was colorful and different. Each one had different properties, and none of them were the same. These lights contained all kinds of wonderful powers, the basis of which was the 5 major rules and the power of the ancient gods, which evolved comprehensively. During the observation, he found that the 5 major rules seemed to evolve into different truths under the power of the ancient gods. And this truth has never appeared in the void. It is very similar to the acquired truth, but it is more complete than the acquired truth, and does not contain personal emotional information. Completely natural evolution of acquired principles, the two are absolutely different. According to Lin Yi's current knowledge, the 5 innate principles can be evolved into acquired principles through life. This principle requires life to constantly improve, and contains strong imagination, and even the rules themselves may violate the 5 principles. But the principles evolved according to the power of the ancient gods do not have any imagination of life, and seem to be purely mechanical evolution, which is completely in line with the framework of the 5 principles, and another direction of acquired principles. This surprised Lin Yi very much. The evolution of acquired principles actually has 2 directions. At this time, his eyes were constantly scanning the walls. He was observing the principles that formed these acquired principles. If he can master these perfect acquired principles, he can accelerate the transformation of the Daohen world in the spirit of the blue star clone into the universe. And this will also accelerate his true spirit to connect more to the spiritual level. Finally, it will pave the way for the eternal spiritual level of the true spirit. He also has the existence of the spiritual wave sphere at the spiritual level. Maybe he can use the Daohen universe to integrate his true spirit into the Lingbo sphere and break free from the constraints of the real world. He can also truly start to reverse the true destiny and understand all the secrets of the true destiny. Lin Yi did not observe the radiant network formed by these acquired principles. Because there are too many of them, it is impossible to remember them all by simple observation. What he wants to find is the fundamental principle that forms these radiances. Only by finding the fundamental principle can he complete the construction of the Daohen universe. The radiance of the true destiny directly penetrated all the metal walls. He saw one light path after another, and all the radiances extended from the light paths. These countless light paths all spread from afar along the metal walls. Therefore, if you want to find the source of the light path, you must go deeper. At this time, Lin Yi has become interested. If he can find another method of evolution of the acquired principles here, it will be possible to complete the construction of the Daohan universe faster. He took Aliata and quickly passed through this metal passage. It took about a few minutes to cross the long passage of hundreds of kilometers. This passage is very long and very dangerous. Lin Yi speculated that almost no one could pass through this passage safely. But this kind of trap could not stop his true destiny as long as the spiritual wave was enough. Aliatha was more and more surprised at Lin Yi's strength. She had never heard of this ability to completely ignore any attack. What kind of power do you have? Not suppressed by the ancient god ruins, and will not be touched by any power. It's incredible, I have never seen it. Hearing Aliatha's words, Lin Yi smiled and said, "This is my secret, it's not convenient to tell you." Directly rejected Aliatha's question, making her face stiffen, and said with a pursed mouth, "Huh, forget it if you don't want to say it." Rare. As she said that, she turned her head and looked to the side, and ignored Lin Yi again. Although it was a bit awkward, there was still a flash of curiosity in her eyes. And now, they finally came to the end of this passage. There was also a metal door, closing the front. It was covered with countless wonderful powers, as if the door was completely sealed. And Lin Yi, with Aliata, still entered without hindrance. Inside was a place completely different from what they imagined. This was a pile of abandoned corpses. The moment they entered here, they smelled a stench that could not be described in words. Then they directly closed their sense of smell. In front of them was a huge pit of at least hundreds of thousands of square meters. Under this cave, there were countless corpse fragments, and the fragments almost filled the deep pit. Lin Yi couldn't see how deep the deep pit was. The light of the true destiny flashed in his eyes, and he was exploring the depth of the deep pit, passing through countless corpse fragments. Soon a trace of horror appeared in his eyes. This deep pit has no end at all. At a glance, there are always endless corpse fragments below, extending to an unknown depth. At this time, Lin Yi also understood why there were so many light path networks formed in the acquired way outside. It was clearly a kind of cage railing, to prevent anyone from coming in and to prevent anything from going out. He had already seen some strange existences appearing among the countless corpse fragments.